Hi everyone, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here with a new PB&J card class. This is video number 7 out of 8 in our Sketch School video series, where I'm revisiting sketches from previous videos and ebooks and using them with new Christmas themed products and theme. And I'm also sharing how I make sketches work for me and keep returning back to some of my favorites for inspiration and getting started. So as you can see in this video, this is a sketch that I love because it includes our posted and our posted cutout stamp and die set, because I just can't get enough of this. I want to use it for with every stamp and every die that I have. So here's the original sketch. It's got our posted stamp and die set where you're essentially creating your own postage stamp. And then behind it, I have an embossed background. And what I'm going to be playing around with in this sketch, keeping it fresh, keeping it new, is changing up my background, which stamps I'm using from cute to elegant, and I'm even going to do a little embellishing with some snowflakes to fit our Christmas theme. So if you love card sketches, just another reminder that I have 3 ebooks available featuring card sketches and lots of card ideas and variations on those sketches, and I will link those for you down below. I also have a video series for each of those books, and those playlists are linked for you down below as well. So I like to prep ahead of time. So I have an envelope for this sketch. You can see I've got lots of options for embossed backgrounds and just regular solid backgrounds. I love Penny Black's embossing folders. If you haven't tried them yet, they're really beautiful. They finish off a card wonderfully. And here's that posted stamp and cutout, and I just do that in advance. I like to make lots at once because I know I'm going to be reaching for them again. All of that is done on Canson 140-pound watercolor paper. It's a cold press watercolor paper. I use it all the time. And if you're wondering about any of the inks, stamps, papers, anything that I'm using, it will be listed for you down below. All the Penny Black products are listed and linked for you, but there's another section that says other supplies, and that will tell exactly the colors I'm using, the paintbrush, anything you'd want to know, it's listed for you down there. So I went ahead and used just Post-it notes to stamp off the edge of that posted stamp, and I stamped my image using Archival ink in the color of watering can, and I've done several at once, again working that sort of assembly line style. That again is with the watering can. This I wanted to have more of a no line look, so I stamped that using Memento Toffee Crunch ink, and same with this one, coloring in the eye using a Pitt Artist pen, just a waterproof fine tip marker. Now I'm going to paint all of these using my Distress Ink Reinkers used as watercolors. So I have a palette there with those on it, a cup of water, and also a paper towel to dab off my paintbrush. You'll see there's an acrylic block there as well. I'm going to press my Memento Toffee Crunch ink pad onto that acrylic block and use that to paint in the people. So I decided to start with the background on this one, and I wasn't quite sure, did I want like rays coming out from the star? I knew I wanted it to be sort of glowing in the background, so I'm just playing around with that. After I put sort of the rays, I did not like how that looks, so I'm just blending that out. If you'd like more detail on my watercoloring process, I do have a video with all the frequently asked questions that I often get with that, and I'll link that for you down below. So there's lots linked up down below if you have any questions. So I put down that yellow kind of to give me the general idea where I want that glow to be, and then I'm grabbing the Gathered Twigs Distress Ink Reinker and putting that in the corners and sort of up to that glow but not over the top of it. So I do like how that looks when that's sort of all filled in that postage sort of background. I am starting light because I know I can always go back and darken it up, but it can be difficult if you go too dark to lighten things. So starting light and getting darker, as you can see. So while it's wet, you can very easily add in more color and drop that in, and it will start to mix and blend with what you've already put down. Getting those corners. Now, if you don't like to paint, you can do the same process and do the same sketch with your colored pencils or your Copic markers. It really works well for anything, and as you can see, you can do it with cute images like this. You can do it with more elegant images. You could put die cuts inside of there. So this sketch is really, really fun and versatile. And then, like I said, I'm going to play around with my background elements just to keep it fresh and fun. So you can see I'm adding a little bit more of that yellow in there to the glow with the star. So I'll go ahead and dry that. Here you can see where I'm pressing that Memento Toffee Crunch ink pad onto my acrylic block and just picking that up to paint with it. I like it because it's just a non-yellow look to that tan. Sorry, there's a little bit off camera there at the bottom. Sometimes I just get to painting and forget that I'm filming and to look up and make sure I'm within frame. So thank you for your patience with that. I was just getting her little legs down there. And I'll begin working on the tree. I'm picking up that ink from my palette and putting it where I want it to be darkest. So that is not diluted at all. Then off camera, I will rinse off my paintbrush, pat it dry, and I can go back and blend that out as I'm doing here. And that gives you that sort of dark to light shading effect. Now I can also go in and layer a little bit more dark color. So here I've grabbed Forest Moss. So the first color was Evergreen Bough, and now this is Forest Moss. I did the same thing, picked it up off the palette, put it where I wanted it to be darkest before it was diluted, rinsed off my paintbrush, and now I can go back and blend that. Rinsed off the paintbrush and dabbed it on the paper towel. You can kind of see that a little bit more in this video, and you can see then I can go back and sort of blend that out. Now these images are so cute. Whether you like to do a lot of shading or if you just want to do a flat wash of color or a flat colored in with one marker, it's going to look really nice and cute no matter how you color it, because the illustration is a really nice illustration. But if you love to add shading or play around with different clothes and combinations, this image is really fun for that. And I just think it's so sweet with her putting that star up there on top of the tree. So here I'll go in and do some painting on her skirt, putting down that darkest color straight from the palette, rinsing off my paintbrush, patting it dry, and then going back to blend that. Now if you're ever painting and you feel like it's just flowing everywhere and you don't have much control, you may have too much water on your paintbrush. So play around with how much and how often you dab your paintbrush off on your paper towel. That may make a really big difference for you. Also, if you're painting and there is just too much water, that happens to me. I rinse off my paintbrush and dab it really good on the paper towel, and I can go back and sort of lift up some of that excess water or paint in that area. So it's kind of like going in with what they call a thirsty brush and helps you to sort of lift up that color. There you can see I started a little bit lighter and then I went back and darkened it up. Don't be afraid to leave a little bit of white on these images or to give them sort of a sketchy look. And you can see I just finished her top and now I'm moving on to the scarf. There I just did a little bit of that lifting. And darkening up that a little bit near the scarf just for a little more contrast between those two. And we'll go ahead and paint the star. Put the darkest color in, rinsed off the paintbrush, patted it dry, and then went back to blend it out. And we'll work on her shoes here. And we'll get that little ornament there at the bottom. So cute. Now I'm going to add a little bit more to this background. I just wanted that to be glowing a little bit more around the star. So I put in that darkest color and then rinsed off my paintbrush, patted it on the paper towel, and I'm just going back to sort of blend that out into the background. So now I've just masked off using some sticky notes the corners of the posted stamp there. And I'm just going to add a little inking on there. And that smooths out any areas, like if you aren't totally happy with your background or it feels a little blotchy, try this. That'll kind of smooth it out, create a little bit more contrast. And I think that's easier to do with the ink blending tool and a foam pad than it always is to do with a paintbrush. I'm also going to add a little stamping. So I've got those post-it notes there to mark things off. And this is from our Fragile stamp set. And I'm doing it in a light ink. So I'm using that Toffee Crunch, and I did it a couple of times to build up the ink color. And I'll just move the stamp over and stamp it again in my MISTI stamp positioning tool. Whoop, better move the magnet. And I'll stamp it a couple times. I'd rather stamp repeatedly than have it be too dark on the first try. And then I'll reveal those. That is so fun. I love how that looks. Just that very subtle background stamping there. So I've stamped my sentiment, and now I just have some white acrylic paint and a really fine tip paintbrush from my stash, nothing fancy. And I'm just adding some snow. So I just wanted to brighten this up, give it a little bit more life and just a little bit more whimsy. Now you could certainly splatter paint on there, but I never have good luck with that. So I find this is actually just faster and I have a little bit more control if I just add a few dots of snow with my acrylic paint. Now I want to embellish this with our Stick and Shine snowflake. So again, taking a sketch that I know and I use often, but doing something new with it just to keep it fun and interesting. So onto some Bristol Smooth paper, I've applied our snowflake Stick and Shine. They're just like a sticky rub-on. Using our applicator tool, you could use your fingers or like an old credit card or gift card. I've laid our foam over the top and I'm just rubbing that, and look at that, you instantly have these foiled snowflakes. This also has a die available, so I've cut those out, and I'm layering these onto this background, which was done with our Blizzard embossing folder. So I've got these foiled snowflakes I'm going to add. I love what those add, and with that embossed background, that is really all you have to do to have a really finished, fun card completed. And there again is, look at that beautiful foiling that was super, super easy to do. And another look at the finished card. But if you stay tuned here, I'll show you another background. So again, mixing things up with a sketch that I've already done many, many times, but just adding some fun to it. So this is our Mosaic Stick and Shine sheet, and I'm applying it to Bristol Smooth paper. These just, you can use them with watercolor paper, but they do work the best with smooth paper. And I'm using the applicator tool to apply that, peeling up that, and I'm going to lay some colored foil. And right over the top of that background, I'm going to rub it. You can rub it with your hand, or I'm going to grab the applicator tool here and just make sure I rub that. And instantly, with no heat, no expensive tools, you can have a foiled background. And I love this mosaic background. If you've been watching this video series, you know I've been using it a lot. You can use it for an entire background, but you can also trim it apart and get several cards from it too, just by the nature of the design. Also, I have seen some people where they use that foil sheet that's left over as a background as well. So that's another option. Look at that. Isn't that so pretty? Now, one of my favorite ways when I have foiled a large background is to do some inking on top of it. I think it just helps it, for me at least, tie it into the rest of the design. So I'm doing some inking with Peacock feathers right over the top of that foil, using an ink blending tool and a foam pad, starting off of the edge and working my way on in a circular motion. I'm going to add a little bit of forest moss on top of that. It's going to create kind of a tone on tone effect. So a green foiling on top of a green background. And look at that when you pair it with that postage. That posted stamp there that was stamped and painted using those same techniques, just switching up the sketch, the background a little bit. So here are the cards that I have completed. We did this one on camera together. So I'm using that sketch, but just varying things up a little bit. Here, this has our Melody embossing folder in the back, really great with birds. And then I added a little bit of twine. So very, very simple, but I think that embossing folder just makes it in the background. Here, I've done a diagonal design with the embossing and added just a small craft border along that edge. I think that ties in with the teddy bears there. And then of course this one with that stick and shine foiled background using our mosaic stick and shine design. Really, really pretty and fun. So you can see we started with one sketch, but we have four very different cards in the end. I'd love to know which is your favorite. Leave us a comment down below. If you have any questions about stick and shine, I'm also going to put a link to a detailed video about that down below. And I just thank you so, so much for watching. We have one more video in this series, so I hope if you've been enjoying this that you are subscribed to our channel. Hit that thumbs up and like button and ring the bell notification so you'll be notified every time we upload a new video. Thanks again for watching and happy stamping.